Hi everyone!
Hello!
We're back after a small break. So basically this week there was this whole Bell Let's Talk Awareness Day about mental health.
Alex and I have both suffered from different mental health issues.
You are looking at two survivors of mental disorders here. So.
Yeah, and so we wanted to share a little bit of our stories and a message of hope and give some advice to you guys. So since I was a kid, really, I was a really nervous child, and I used to have crazy phobias that ghosts were gonna come in my room late at night, and it started with really absurd child fears and developed into generalized anxiety disorder, which I still deal with but have gotten a lot better at coping. And so what used to seem like the end of the world to me is now something that I feel in control of. And so if I could, as a 10-year-old kid, suffer from social anxiety and obsessive worry and all of that not fun stuff and get through it, then you can too. I live a very happy, fulfilling life now.
I can kind of relate to your stories because as a kid I was also my parents will tell you that I would always think of the worst possible situations. I was always afraid of earthquake, forest fires, tsunamis, atomic bombs falling.
I once thought that dinosaurs were going to come back after I saw Jurassic Park, and I had to go to my guidance counselor in grade 8, and I was like, what if they come back? We're screwed. She's like, it doesn't work like that.
I also had ADD as a child, so I've been following treatments ever since I was 9 and seeing people. But then as I grew, the anxiety kind of got, would I say worse? I don't know, it got more complicated. So in a sense, when you're dealing with the stress of school, towards the end of my high school years, it kind of became overwhelming at a certain point. And eventually I went to therapy. So I did CBT for around 1.5 years. But it's not something that I had at all. I'm very open about that experience. I actually say it's one of the experiences that changed me the most as a person. And a lot of the problems that I used to have before, I don't have anymore because I got to reframe my thinking. I was constantly worrying about how others would perceive me, or how basically I would constantly judge myself.
Yeah, I also went to therapy and never did a serious cognitive behavioral therapy approach, but it definitely really helped because sometimes when you talk to somebody else about the things that you worry about, it puts them into perspective and you realize that the mountain is really just a little anthill.
Yeah.
And it's totally conquerable. I think one of my favorite methods actually for dealing with, if you have sort of a depressive episode for a bit or you're really anxious and worried, my favorite thing that I learned from Oprah when I was 13 is to start a thankful journal. And so this has been one of the biggest things that have changed my life. Every night before I go to sleep, I have this little journal and I write a page worth of things that I have to be grateful for that happened to me that day. If you do this, it helps you reframe the way that you see the world. So instead of being a pessimistic teenager full of all that angst and typical junk, I started to think about, someone held the door open for me and that was really sweet, or my mom cooked a really tasty meal, which was great, little things and big things, getting an A+ on a paper. The further you get into it, the more you notice all of the little things, and the next thing you know, you've changed the way that you look at the world. And so after 11 years, I'm at 12,000, about 12,000. I'm at 11,901.
Wow.
So
that's good.
Try it. I guess any other advice would just be talk about it.
Talk about it. Don't be afraid. Of course, there are some people that are going to judge you. Some people have not experienced what you have experienced, and you need to understand that...
they won't understand?
Well, basically, you need to understand that some people need explaining. Just as I needed explaining when I was first told that I was, that I had ADHD, and that I would, I'd be different, basically. You get used to it and you get comfortable talking about it, answering questions. I have to sometimes deal with people who don't believe in ADD, ADHD. Much like when you come out, you become comfortable and...
I think in a way
talk about
it is kind of like a coming out, because, you know, there's as much stigma around mental illness as coming out, and, you know, some families are more supportive and some aren't, and I'm lucky that my family has been there through and through for me. But yeah, I guess the first step in dealing is like to find someone that you can confide in, and if it's not your family, then find a friend or find a counselor if you need one. And I highly recommend counselors.
I think people with great potential have great challenges as well. So
yeah,
that's...
I think it makes you stronger, because if you've never suffered from anxiety or depression or OCD, then you've never had those challenges to overcome. And so I think in the struggle there's strength, and every time that you persevere and you succeed in challenging another fear, pushing yourself forward and trying to be the best person that you can, you're a fighter. And I think that's really, really powerful, and that you're gonna be so much better for it when you come out the other side, or even if you still deal with it, just to like take stock and say like, I'm tough.
That's what my peacock symbolizes. It was once a little tiny, scared and worried bird, and now it's just fabulous.